Hello, buddy. Omni here. It's been about a week since its release, but I want to give you guys my thoughts and my review on Kingdom Hearts 3. Now, if you've been following the channel at all, you should know by now I'm a pretty big Kingdom Hearts fan. I've covered the trailers as they've released, I've talked about it myself and how I recommend you should play the games. You can go back and check those videos, they're still on the channel. But you I've been a long time fan of this series. Even before its initial release, when I was maybe like 12 or 13, I received a PlayStation magazine in the mail. Saw this weird little demo discs as we used to get back in the day that had this interesting little game on it. I was like, "What is this? Is this Final Fantasy? Is this Disney? What's happening here?" It's a little game called Kingdom Hearts. And I played that demo and I was really enthralled with it. And once it came out, I rented it and I got right on board. And it's been something that's been pretty solid part of my life since then. There's been 9 different entries now, and that's excluding rebrands and re-releases, but it's definitely a series that's evolved and grown from that whimsical, childlike game that it first started with. It has definitely become more complex, more deep. There's been a lot of branching stories and new characters that we've learned and met throughout the years. But it's been about 13 years now since the last main title that follows and focuses on the story that was set up in the first game and the characters that were set up in that game. Now, there has been games since then. They've all been side titles, but that's the one thing that's kind of been fragmenting fans of the series that started with the original or even played Kingdom Hearts 2 on PS2 as well, is that a lot of these side games have been on different consoles or different mediums, and some of them weren't even released outside of Japan until years later. So there's been it's been a troubling thing with as this game has been growing in its scale and scope since the first game that a lot of people kind of fell off the map after Kingdom Hearts 2. So you see, boom, Kingdom Hearts 3 is coming and it's on the horizons. And some people, you get that initial idea that you can just jump right in after Kingdom Hearts 2 and you'll be fine. However, unfortunately, mobile games are much more popular in Japan. So there's been a lot of those side games were released on things like the DS, the Game Boy Advance for Chain of Memories, and then the 3DS for Dream Drop Distance, and of course, even mobile for Kingdom Hearts Key. There's been a lot of story to keep up with, and Kingdom Hearts 3 had promised to give closure to a lot of storylines that was set up across every one of these entries. There is not one entry in the series that does not get some kind of hint to or acknowledgement in this game, and so that might leave a lot of people confused. Now, there is the argument too that these collections have been released on the PS3 and as early as 2013. The first 1.5 collection has been on a single console since 2013, with a 2014 release for 2.5, which included the next set of games. So by 2017, every single Kingdom Hearts game that was relevant to the story of Kingdom Hearts 3 has been on consoles, on the same consoles. However, the problem also exists with this because this is the first time any Kingdom Hearts game has been on a Microsoft platform. So this game is also releasing on the Xbox One, and that leaves a lot of people that may have been Xbox only up until this, just hopping right out of the gate into a game they have no familiarity with because it's been primarily up until this point a PlayStation brand. So there's a lot of problems here with people trying to get into it, and that's left a lot of people feeling a little disconnected. And of course, you can go and watch things on YouTube and stuff like that, but then you have the counter argument was, would you really go into Infinity War and not have watched all the previous Marvel movies? So that's kind of going to be where you go, where you're going to be trying to get into this, and that's left a lot of things to be desired for a lot of people. Also, you have the 13-year wait between the last main console game, and that's anytime you go a long time in a fan base or a fandom. Star Wars is a huge example of this. Expectations get built up in your mind on what you should get once that game comes out, and sometimes that it doesn't meet expectations. However, I would like to go ahead. We're going to start down before we even get to the story or anything like that. I want to talk about the different aspects of the game that really kind of stand out. The first thing I want to point out is the visuals in this game. Now, if you go and break it down, it does not fully utilize the next gen, current gen hardware that they're running on. Of course, Square switched to Unreal about halfway through production and had to learn it as they went, so that's not surprising. However, despite any of those technicalities in the performance of the game, you don't see it. The visuals and the art design in this game are fantastic. It is a beautiful, fluid game. There's some times here or there you'll get some weird stuttering, you'll get some weird frame drops, but as you're going through it, they're really few and far between, at least in my experience. So I can't speak for everybody else. But the visuals and the look and feel of this game is just beautiful. Now, it's no Red Dead 2, it's no God of War 4, but it's not that kind of game. This is still focusing on the Disney properties, these anime JRPG style characters that originated from the Kingdom Hearts and the Final Fantasy style that birthed this whole idea that became this franchise. I would like to say that it definitely is the most beautiful game in the series, easily. And we're going to move on to the gameplay. Now, the gameplay for Kingdom Hearts is always there's a two-way street for this, and on both sides of that street, you have the people that are all about that combat, and it's got to be a certain way. For most of the fan base, Kingdom Hearts 2 was the pinnacle of combat. However, the game was very flat and linear, so it really excelled in the action combat and the engaging combat that was in that game. A lot of people were holding Kingdom Hearts 3 up to that standard, and personally, I was one of those people. I was like, man, if this doesn't feel like Kingdom Hearts 2, I'll be a little disappointed. I won't be upset because I still played every entry in the series. I still love every entry in the series, even though Chain of Memories can just kind of die in a fire as far as gameplay is concerned. But oddly enough, I was won over really quick by this combat system. It's very fluid and it's extremely flashy. You feel strong and powerful, but doing all of these moves, the situational commands and the different Keyblade transformations, the attraction rides give you a plethora of visual marvel and flair when you're engaging in combat, and gives you a lot of different ways to approach different fights. It definitely, I think, it built up from where we were and adjusted some different things to make a very stylized and refreshing stream of combat. Now, the big complaint too, at some points you feel way too powerful because of these different Keyblade transformations, these different attraction ride abilities that seems like the game kind of gives you way too frequently. At some points, there's some points where you have 3 to 4 of these things stacked up and queued up because of how fast you've just been taking down enemies. And that is kind of how it feels too. I'm about halfway through my proud mode run, and it does feel much easier than any previous title. Now, they did say that this game, before the highest difficulty mode in a game prior to this was critical mode. This game tops out at a proud, which was, let's say, hard, right above the standard mode in the previous titles. But they said before this game came out that they were rebalancing it so that critical, or that proud, would be the critical for this. And honestly, I feel the same way as a lot of people, that it doesn't feel that way. Like, it definitely does feel like a slightly harder difficulty. The only thing that I've really noticed that's different is I take more damage. I'm not going to take that as a slight against the game. They do plan on releasing DLC. There will likely be a critical mode with the amount of outcry for that from the community. So that's probably something that'll come down the road with as the game evolves and grows over the next year. But on top of that, outside of the combat, this is the most expansive any of these games have been. I think up until this point, Dream Drop Distance was in winning that category. There was a lot of verticality added into Dream Drop Distance that kind of expanded and grew these rooms, these zones that you were exploring, and gave a lot of freedom with the flow motion in that game. And this game does that and expands it even more thanks to the hardware. There's some very large areas in this game. There's a lot of exploration that you can do. The wall running that it adds into it to help you traverse some of these areas is really fun, and it's awesome and entertaining for me, at least, to run around and see what I can find with all the different collectibles and the ingredients and the lucky emblems that are lying around in wait that Donald and Goofy will not fail to let you know are near you. It definitely expands and adds not only a horizontal dimension to this game, but a lot of vertical moments as well, giving a well rounded three dimensional environment to explore and navigate. But on top of that as well, this game has the most gameplay variety that there has been in a Kingdom Hearts title. You're not just always smashing and smacking Heartless to death with your Keyblade or zapping them with magic. There's all kinds of different types of gameplay throughout this game. Heck, as you see in the trailers in the Pirates of the Caribbean world, it turns into Black Flag for a moment. It turns into a seafaring, free roam pirate ship game at one point. There's so many different types of gameplay throughout this that really packs this game to the brim with content. On top of that, you have the Gummy Phone and all the different elements within that, a lot of different collectibles, a lot of different mini games, and the Gummy Ship itself, that whole segment has been revamped into almost its own mini game itself. It could be a side expansion in and of itself if it wanted to be. There's a whole lot there. There's Gummy Ship missions, there's more freedom and free roaming, even as in the Gummy Ship. It's almost its own game, too. There's just a lot of stuff packed into here, and it's really the most we've ever gotten in a game. And that's objectively speaking. Moving on from gameplay, I want to talk about the sound design, the soundtrack. The soundtrack and the music and the orchestra, everything about Kingdom Hearts can be accented and is known for its musical flair. Utada Hikaru is back with her new theme for both the beginning and end, also returning as Yoko Shimomura, who's the composer on the previous titles of the game, and her music, her flair, and her passion for what she does always comes through in her work. And has been a staple of the series up until this, and it shines no less in this game. The music is astounding. The music is powerful and moving in every moment that it needs to be, and it is everything I could have asked for in the Kingdom Hearts game. Lastly, let's talk about the story. And I'm not going to go into any specific story beats. I'm not going to give any spoilers as to what happens. But this is the conclusive episode, the conclusive entry in the Xehanort saga, which has been the entirety of what Kingdom Hearts has been up until this point, outside of the Kingdom Hearts mobile game or the browser game that originated in Japan only, which seems to possibly be where the series is heading at this point. Now, the pacing for this game is also very different from previous titles. Usually, the main plot is sprinkled in throughout the Disney worlds throughout the game. You get kind of a midpoint thing like you do that kind of drives the plot forward, like you did in Kingdom Hearts 2 with the Thousand Heartless fight when the organization shows up at Hollow Bastion. That's not the case in this game. Pretty much you just do a pure gauntlet of the Disney worlds with a little hint of what the plot is going to be, building up towards. Of course, you've got the organization getting their fingers into the plot of each of the worlds, some more so than others, but it just feels a little bit unbalanced. However, the counter argument to that too is that this is the most developed the Disney worlds have ever been. Some of these worlds, it felt almost like I was just watching the movie. Like the before in the Kingdom Hearts games, all the Disney worlds felt like mere echoes or abridged caricatures of what the story was from the film. Some of these worlds are continuations. They pick up after the fact for some of the film. Some of them, it takes place during the main story of the film. In some instances like that, like where it takes place during the film, it actually very much encapsulates a lot of what is involved in it. As far as completion times, they're definitely, at least for me, took almost double the amount of time that is taken in previous titles to get through a world. So there's way more Disney love thrown into the worlds. When the main plot comes in to where it's sprinkled in throughout the Disney worlds, it does not take away from that Disney world. Usually it kind of would overshadow it in a way. A lot of love was put into those worlds. Each one is distinct and different in a huge variety of ways. Now, the problem though is, like I said, where things were only kind of sprinkled in throughout this gauntlet, this massive gauntlet through all the Disney worlds, that after you've cleared all the Disney worlds, that is when the main plot kicks in and then it takes over for the rest of the game. When it finally does, it's like you just got socked in the face. However, every moment after that point is fantastic. There's a lot of rewarding moments for the fans. There's a lot to look forward to, and there's a lot of amazing moments, scenes, action, emotion that will come throughout that. Because of the how large this game is, some people might feel that some of their favorite characters maybe just didn't get as much love as they would have wanted them to get. And with a cast this large, we're back to focusing mainly on our primary hero, Sora. So it's not surprising to me, at least, that not everybody gets their closure, but some people don't get as much as others. So it's a little disappointing for a lot of fans. But aside from that, I think by the end of the game, it's a very well rewarding story that ties up so much that was set up in the previous games, while also giving us just enough to hint and speculate as to what might come afterwards, where the story for our gang might go from here. There's still some plot holes. There's still some things in pure Kingdom Hearts fashion that just don't make sense. And for the people that really are focusing in on those types of things, I personally, this is going to be my opinion on it. I don't understand what you were expecting in the first place, because Kingdom Hearts has not been about flawless logic. It is a series about love, a series about heart and friendship and the power of friendship. They've added time travel, which by their own laws that they explain in the game doesn't make sense how they're doing half of what they are doing. And it's like going in and watching it like old Power Rangers and expecting like Shakespearean levels of storytelling. It's just not what you go into it for. I love Kingdom Hearts for the heart, the love, the friendship, all that cheesy, gooey Disney stuff, along with all those dark elements as well. Not everything's going to make sense. That's just not what the series is. That's not the reason we love it. We love it for that quirky nature, that way it pulls us back in and tries to help us focus on the best parts of humanity, the things that bring us together and help us move forward. And honestly, that's the most important thing to me in the series and for what it means. It's helped me a lot with understanding myself, even simply other people as well. And you know what? I, I, I can't tell you how to feel. Everyone reacts to something differently. And if you're one of those people, I get it. I do understand wanting more after 13 years, or, having your expectations so high and then not getting them met with a game. I understand it. I get it. And everybody is entitled to their opinion. I just want everybody to connect through our love of this series, of this game. If it's not what you expected or what you wanted, love and relish in the fact that maybe your friend or somebody else did enjoy it. You know, we need to see eye to eye, and we need to understand and respect each other's opinions, and not tear ourselves apart over it. There's going to be more to come. This game's only just now out. There's also prospective content for this game to be coming out through DLC and other means. So maybe your expectations or what you were expecting will be around the corner, but it's hard to tell at this point. Square Enix is in an interesting place right now because their recent titles haven't been doing the best. Their stocks have been going down, and it's kind of been a scramble over there with different projects getting canceled and stuff like that, like the additional storylines that were supposed to be released for Final Fantasy 15. But in that same comparison, I'd like to make is, as of this past September, which has only been 5 months ago, the lifetime total units for Final Fantasy 15 was 8.5 million units. And that's in its little over 2 years of release. It is also on Xbox and PlayStation. It's also on PC, and it's had two different editions and releases, with the Royal Edition, along with the Comrades expansion. And comparing that to Kingdom Hearts, It has been out 1 week and it has already sold 5 million units. That's more than half of the lifetime total of Final Fantasy 15. So I'm really curious to see what how Square Enix is going to react to this. This may be a tipping point where maybe we see more Kingdom Hearts sooner. Maybe there's going to be more projects. Maybe it just means we'll get the next game sooner than we think. Definitely is going to be sooner than another 13 years from now. I can almost guarantee that, at least. So, all in all, in the end, despite all of its flaws, I just feel like there's way too much in this game to let that bring it down. Like, whether, no matter how you feel about the results of the story by the end of the game itself, objectively, I feel like is a strong contender in the series. And personally, it's my favorite entry in the series now. All in all, this is a solid entry in the series and a solid game. There's so much packed into this, and there's so much apparent love for the series, the characters, and stuff like that. And despite the plot holes, despite the flaws, besides some of the maybe oversights you might think, or even some of the characters not getting as much love as you would have wanted by the end of it, I think the game itself shines above all of those things. And for me, in my book, I would give this a solid 8.5 out of 10. And I highly recommend it for any fan of the series or anybody on the fence about it. For people new to the series, I definitely always will recommend you play the games. They have been on console since 2013. So they're too spread out across different consoles argument is invalid at this point. The only people that I understand and feel for and can make that argument are people who have been on Xbox since the beginning, because they've had no access to that and the collections are still not available on that platform. It's still primarily PlayStation only. So for those people, I definitely understand. For anybody that's had a PS3 or a PS4 since they've been released, those titles have been available for you. That is not an excuse. And I'm going to wrap that up here. I'm working on my 100% Proud Mode run right now on Twitch. If you'd like to check that out, I'm skipping the storylines, the cutscenes, and stuff like that, so you don't have to worry about spoilers, unless it's a boss fight or two that might pop up. But if you want to, come check me out that. Links for all my other social medias and accounts is in the description below, as always. And if you'd like to check out my thoughts on any of the trailers, anything else that Kingdom Hearts related, definitely go back and check those out. They're still on the channel if you want to look and hear my thoughts on those or my reactions to some of the trailers that came out. And yeah, aside from that, I have never been more excited to play a game, and I am still playing it, and I plan on playing it for quite some time longer. And I only hope that the series grows and moves forward from here, and that us as fans can unite under this banner of this love of the series. Whether it fulfilled everything you wanted or not, we are all still here for the franchise. And if it didn't deliver for you, there's always hope for something down around the corner. But let's always love, cherish, and help support the community, the fans that love this game, and not get at each other's throats. Please, let's try to see eye to eye and connect our hearts. And on that note, may your heart be your guiding key, and I'll see you guys in the next video.